This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland. Watch it now on Prime Video.
Welcome to the Southern U Podcast, brought to you by Darden Archery on the Okayest Podcast Network, with your co-host, Matt Brock, Jeremy Ferguson, and Taylor McMurtry. If you're looking for all things land-related in the Southeast, you came to the right place. Whether it's real estate, habitat, wildlife, or just being outdoors, this is the place for you. Welcome to the Southern U. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Southern U Podcast, where we seek to provide information and resources on all things land related. My name's Taylor. Got to my immediate left here is Mr. Matt Brock of
Howdy.
Habitat First Properties.
No shots. I mean, he gave
I
you
do.
two. He gave you two or three.
No, I appreciate that, and I respect you greatly.
There you go. That's all I was going for, is
Respect.
greatly respect. Yeah. And Mr. Jeremy Ferguson of Wildlife Consulting Services / TLC, not the band, unfortunately.
No, we're not chasing waterfalls
Nope.
today, baby.
Unfortunately. Kind of want to see Jeremy chase waterfalls now. At least sing it.
Yeah.
Don't
go chasing waterfalls.
There you go.
I know he
Oh.
didn't. He did.
Well, guys, I forgot to do this on the last episode, but I do want to give a shout-out to our sponsors. We have First South Farm Credit.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys helping us out with making this podcast possible. Tethered tree saddles. You can get mobile and use a tree saddle instead of a tree stand and be a little bit more efficient, run and gun if that's what you like to do. We appreciate them. Also, Darden Archery / Black Eagle Arrows / Conquest.
Y'all, those
boy.
things are killers.
Are they not?
I mean,
We
just
put some stuff on the ground.
we have
this
killed some crap.
Yeah, somebody has.
year. Forget about that.
Yeah.
What, forget that I went all the way to Texas
Yes.
and didn't kill
Didn't
anything?
shoot nothing.
Well, you did. Just
You
not,
got to kill some quail.
yeah.
I did, most importantly.
Not with a Darton, but
Not with
Right,
a Darton.
right.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I could.
Yes.
I would make
Yes,
that trip
that's right.
just to shoot quail.
Oh, that was a cool trip.
Every time.
I mean, like, I had that much fun.
I had a buddy out there shortly after we were out there, and they shot the stew out of blues, too.
Really. Oh, man, they're such pretty birds.
They are.
Delicious.
The great
They were
the great
good.
thing, the footage he sent me, he had a dog.
Oh, yeah.
So,
that's cool.
you know, we were the dogs, but that's okay.
And that's fine. I'm perfectly
Oh, I had a
fine with
blast.
that. I'll kick up quail all day.
yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
And shoot the one long morning dove when he comes over.
That's right.
Oh yeah, and Vitalize Seed. Definitely want to give
Oh,
Vitalize
Vitalize. Everybody's been hitting us up on Instagram, wanting to know what to plant right now and what to put in the ground, and
Yep.
you know, so we're making recommendations. You guys go check them out.
Yep.
Little nitro boost.
And give, you know, I know it's some competition, but might as well throw a little bit of appreciation toward the folks there at Mossy Oak.
Absolutely.
They are, you know, they got us some trees from Native Nurseries. But two, Mike and the guys over there have got me set up with a big order of soybeans coming in.
Yep.
So we're going to look. It's going to be a test. We're going to run Vitalize. We're going to run Eagle soybeans, and we're going to run Mossy Oak side by side. And we're going to see how they turn out. Look, they are very different. Mm-hmm. One's a mix. One's a group. I think Mossy Oak, Mac told me, was a group 5, I think.
I think that's correct.
Soybean. And then the Eagle seed are indeterminate, so that they'll stay green until the frost. But I do want to see, how they compare, how they handle deer browse. And, I mean, I know how Vitalized, I know how Eagle Seed. I have not been lucky enough to have the experience with Biologics beans.
Now, look, my Biologic beans last year, soybeans, did great.
Well,
I honestly thought that when the deer hit them the first time, I thought, yeah, they're done. And they came back.
You got me some, and we planted them. And unfortunately, they got about this tall, and army worms hit. So there was nothing we could do. Army worms wiped out the entire field. We weren't going to replant with soybeans, so it was just lost cause last year.
Last year, army beans hit the
Army beans.
Army worms. Sorry. Army beans. What's an army bean?
I don't know.
They come in MREs.
That's right. It's probably something
they'll stop you up.
Yeah.
I was going to say the house here is kind of a new construction site, so we have not put any kind of grass seed down yet, and so whatever's here is just there. And army worms showed up, and there is no grass at the house. It wiped it out. So
yep, they caused us some significant problems last year.
No doubt.
I hate the stupid little things.
And last thing I want to say, we have, I believe, a new podcast that has been added to the network recently, and it is the Okayest Shooter / Powderhorn podcast. And so if you guys are gun nuts, if that's your thing and firearms are your thing, check it out, man. They've got some really cool stuff happening over there, and
we're gonna have to partner up with those guys and do a show one day and do some shooting.
We need to do a shooting episode for sure.
We could give up this podcast and I could go straight over there and I'd be fine.
Well, that's good to know, isn't it, man?
No, I mean, hey, just leave us.
Hey, I like guns better than I like y'all.
I
didn't
believe
take
him.
much.
I believe him.
Look, I can't shoot nobody with y'all.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I could take the one away from you.
That's true. That's true.
True.
I'm packing.
Well, I guess with that being said, before we jump in to the topic of discussion, y'all got any shout-outs for viewers or audience today?
I've got one, and I'll do it again. But some guys, speaking of guns, had a couple of guys in a group that I'm in on Facebook send me a really good-looking hat from the group's called A Polite Society. They do a lot of custom-coded, magazines. They've done some custom runs of guns, do patches and stickers, and look, it's a gun thing. If you're a gun guy like me, you understand the patches and the stickers, or the patches and the slaps. If you're not, you like what? So, gun folks know what I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
But I'm glad somebody does.
Yeah, but they sent me out a really nice hat. I'll wear it. But those guys have been pretty cool to help me out with a couple projects on guns I've got going.
Gotcha. Cool.
So
I've got a shout out.
Got it.
I'm wearing them on my feet.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ariat Boots. I went by Woods and Water, and let's just go ahead and shout out to Woods and Water in Tuscaloosa too.
There you go.
Yeah, so they had boots on sale, and I needed a new pair of work boots. They were $79.99.
That's a steal.
Half off.
Bargain.
So I went ahead and bought 2 pairs.
Yep.
No doubt. That's pretty awesome, man. Well, I was trying to think of other random shout-outs. Actually, I tell you what, this is going to be kind of a general shout-out, but I do want to say welcome, new followers, new subscribers. We have had an influx, both just in viewership and followers on Instagram, TikTok, all the good stuff. So,
do we know why?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Bray. But we don't know that.
A shout out to Bray, maybe.
Yeah, shout out to Bray.
Yeah, appreciate you increasing
Bray's
our
not here.
viewership. Yeah.
But we've definitely got more people checking us out, and so welcome to the Southern Utes Ragtag bunch
and stay around, even though Bray's not here. She's not the only other biologist that we're going to have besides ourselves.
Sure.
We've got a laundry list kind of lined up, but that's part of the thing that Taylor's been referring to for a few weeks, but we're still getting there.
Yep.
So Give us a little time.
Yeah, and because I know we've said this before, but some of the questions that you guys have asked that you want these biologists to answer are very specific, and we want to give you the best answer we can. So that requires a very specific person to be here, and that kind of specializes in that field. So
we're going to get foresters and ag. Ag guys. When I say ag, crop and soil folks, we're going to have a lot of different folks.
No doubt.
Coming time to time.
Yep, no doubt. So, anyways, with that said, we will kick off. I guess this would technically be part 3 of Ask a Biologist. And basically, if you're not familiar, we asked all of our followers, but primarily what was sent in was through Instagram. We've had a few through Facebook, a few through TikTok, but we asked you for questions that you would like to ask a wildlife biologist. If there's ever been something about habitat or about, deer, turkey, quail, whatever, that you like, man, I'd just like to know what a biologist would have to say on this specific subject matter, whatever, then we throw it at them and we get answers for you. So it's been a lot of fun because we've been able to go in depth on some of this stuff and really kind of dissect some of these questions and have pretty good response too. You guys seem to be eager to send in some
and it's
questions.
Enjoyable when we don't know what you're going to ask, and a couple of the questions Taylor would hit Bray and am I hot?
No, you need to be hotter.
Oh, you can't hear me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Better.
A little bit.
Keep talking.
Keep talking.
Check. Yeah, I hear myself
there you
now,
go.
so
That's
that ought
better.
to be all right. But even Bray looked like, uh-oh. I wasn't quite expecting that, and she handled herself great, as she always does. But
and she'll be back.
Yeah.
It's not like,
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
I doubt we'll have anybody on here just one time. Now, look, if we could get rid of somebody, we would. But,
I know who that would be.
Yeah.
I'm the only non-biologist, so I guess I'm like the odd man out.
Nah.
I think he's talking about me.
No, yeah, we definitely talking about you.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's the premise. If you're new to this thing, 2 biologists and a marketing guy decided to start a podcast about land stuff.
Yeah.
So, what could go wrong?
That's it.
Entertaining. But if you guys are ready, if I can pull up these questions, we'll just dive right in here. Who knows? This could be a short episode. This could be a longer one. We'll just see where it goes. Ready?
Game on.
All right. Very first one here. What calls work/don't work in the South, and when to use them? I'm assuming this is deer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whew. I think that they all can work, and they can all fail.
100%.
Situational, so it depends.
Yep, it does. And really, to me, it all boils down to that individual deer you're talking to.
Yep.
You have to be able to see that deer. If you can't and you cannot judge that deer's reaction, you don't know if that deer is listening to you or even heard you.
So you're not a fan of blind calling, then?
I have had blind rattling work a few times. Every time it worked was at Oak Mountain State Park.
Really?
Every single
cool.
time. If I hit antlers on Oak Mountain, I'm going to see a buck.
That's awesome.
Every time.
Because I hunted Oak Mountain, and as far as I'm concerned, that place is Chernobyl.
Yes.
Oh, I mean, look, the
it
deer
was
density,
at one point.
Yeah, the deer density there is 1/10 of what it used to be, or less.
Of course, I really think that it was the time and the unit that we drew with the time of the year that we went. It was not rut. It was also not early season. It was, I think, if I remember correctly, I think we were down there the 10th through the 13th or 14th of December.
Yeah, not even worth leaving the house.
No. The doldrums of December.
Yes.
That's a terrible time to be
and,
there.
It was hard, man. Between 2 people, I think our section, if I remember correctly, the section we drew was somewhere around 300 acres, and between 2 people who hunted all 4 days, did not lay eyes on a deer.
Oh, that's bad.
I'd have went home.
It was bad. Oh, we did.
After a day and a half of that, I'd have went home.
And then, add insult to injury, go back to stay at Jake's house, and we got torrential rain, which then completely flooded his basement.
Oh, wow.
While I was there. So
fun.
It was like 4 days of getting your butt kicked in the woods, then to come home and then spend the next whatever. I think
sucking out water.
Yeah, with shop vacs trying to suck out.
That's not all that different from y'all's little trip to my place.
No, that was a lot more fun.
Go over there, and a place that you normally see a couple of dozen deer every time you go in the woods. And
no, the common denominator is me. I'm just not a very good hunter, I don't guess.
I don't know what happened over there.
I do. It was time.
It was
time of the
year.
year.
But to get back on track, I guess. A lot
Did we get off track?
I don't know. It depends.
We're ever on one.
The timing has a lot to do with it, as well as your sex ratio in deer population.
And pressure.
Yes, a lot of places where calling works, they have a much even sex ratio and more mature deer in the population.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to have a lot more to do with success using a call in the South, in my opinion. I do not use calls that much.
I don't in the South. And that's – look, I've had it work, but it has been with limited success. Mm-hmm. And I attribute that to what he just said was the sex ratio and the deer density. Most of the places that I've hunted through the years in the South were not great. Mm-hmm. Just too many deer. And look, there was just no need for them to respond. They'll stand out there and look, but they're not going to come check it out.
Yeah. Had a guy, shout out to the Alabama River Lodge, Selma, around the Selma, Sardis area of Alabama. A guy told me he swore up and down that the right time of year, of course, during the rut, early January, he's like, man, if you've never tried to snort wheeze down here, I'm telling you, it works. They'll come running it, whatever. Now, I've never had it work. I've only rattled in one deer in my life, and I actually had a bow in my hand when I did it, and so I had to shoot him. Couldn't help it. Yeah. But apart from that, I don't know that I've never rattled another deer in. I have grunted one buck in, and I got him to come back 3 times. Mm-hmm. And I was running a camera during that whole deal. I didn't even have a weapon with me, but my buddy did, and so it was just, if I had a weapon, I could have shot the deer 100 times, but it was a bad angle for him because he's left-handed. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so it just didn't work out. But that's really the extent of successful calling, rattling and stuff for me. But
I've had great success with it in the Midwest,
sure,
but not here. And I think it was all a product of where we were hunting.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do. I think over there where we're at, you get in some of those clear-cut acres, calling will work there because there's a lot of territory deer can see in it, but not very well for distance. Mm-hmm. So they'll move through it looking for what they hear because they feel safe.
Sure.
Are they going to walk across the open cattle pasture to come check out calling? No, probably not.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good point to make, though, is that take into account the time of year, sex ratios, and visibility. Mm-hmm. You know, if something can just raise its head up and look, I don't see anything there. Mm-hmm. Probably not working, you know. But if you've got some kind of terrain feature to prevent, then that probably influences that a good bit.
And another reason I don't use calls much in Alabama, the properties that I have permission to hunt or own, I'm after specific deer. Mm-hmm. I'm not just trying to call in,
a deer,
one of multiple deer that could be on the landscape. I'm hunting a deer, and the fun to me is to figure that deer out and to make him dead.
And really, when you're hunting a deer, you don't want him to know that you're in the world.
No.
So making a noise in the wood is not what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, if you have to make a noise to make him stop, to make him dead, fine. But making unnecessary noise to try to call in a individual, not wise.
Right. I would agree. Well, I hope that was a satisfying answer for you there.
And I want to throw something. I was just going to interject something. You mentioned calling. It did not mention decoys.
Nope.
I have actually had pretty doggone good luck with decoys in the South.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Just not saying, I'm not saying anything with calls most of the time, but I've on numerous instances we have killed deer And we've actually used decoys to kill individual bucks that we knew were aggressive. We had one particular buck in Etowah County, a buddy of mine shot, ended up scoring, I think, 146. Deer just showed up out of nowhere. Don't know where he come from. He did not live on that property consistently. And all of a sudden, here he is, and my buddy Chris is like, man, look how this deer acts in every picture. He's got his head cocked. He's got his ears laid back. He's fluffed up. He's just an aggressive deer. I said, and I was like, you can kill that deer easily. And, what do you mean? I said, you get that deer to see a decoy, and he's dead. And he actually barred a Glendale buck because nobody had a decoy. Nobody had
target. Target.
Nobody had a decoy, and so he goes and sticks this Glendale buck target up out in the edge of a field. The only deer he saw was that buck, and he said when the deer saw that decoy, he immediately ran head down, didn't slow down until he hit the target. And, of course, Chris was hunting with a rifle, and he's a very good shot. So he shoots the deer running, and, the deer hits the decoy, blows it into 3 or 4 pieces, whatever it's in. But there's blood all over the decoy where he had shot the deer, and the deer still hits the decoy.
That's funny.
But it's a heck of a dang deer. Like I said, I think 146, 147,
that's
something
a
like
stud
that.
for an Alabama deer.
Absolutely.
Yep. Golly, that son of a gun killed some big deer and sawed the horns off every one of them.
No mounts.
Nope. Broke my heart. As far as my personal friends, no shade on you, but he's killed more big deer than anybody else I know, and it's not close.
That's awesome. That's cool.
All with a rifle, though.
Gotcha.
You can throw shade on me anytime you get ready.
Look, you kill a bunch of good deer. Not as many as he has, but you've
Killed him with a bow, though, baby.
You've killed a bunch of good deer, so can't take anything away from you.
I've just been blessed.
Let's see. Number 2. What is the easiest way, things to look for, to determine if a buck is mature or not?
Good question.
The length of the sack. I'm just kidding.
That's what you're going for, guys.
So I guess it's no surprise I have a lot of people that send me pictures and, hey, how old is this deer? And without history and knowledge of that deer, I try to lump it into a 2-year age class.
Yeah.
He's likely 4 or 5, could be 5 or 6. The deer's 3 or 4. I try to stay away from the deer's 3.
Yeah.
Or the deer's 4. I don't know.
Ones and twos are generally pretty easy.
Yes, ones and twos are
Once they
easy.
hit 3, it gets difficult.
Yeah.
Okay,
So they
ones and twos look like what?
Ones and twos.
A 1-year-old buck, even during the rut, is going to look like a doe most of the time. He might have slight swelling of the neck, but not going to have a filled-out body.
Rump is always going to be higher than his front shoulders.
Yep. And at 2, they start to even out.
Yep.
They're going to have a slightly more swelled up neck. But from 3 on is where you start getting into, and I don't consider anything mature until it's 5.
Yeah.
I know some people consider 4-year-olds mature, but they're not, their skeletal structure is not fully developed yet. So what I look for in a hunting scenario, and I'm assuming that's what they're asking, how do I identify a mature buck in a hunting situation?
Yeah, if I want to shoot this thing.
Yeah,
and that can be tougher.
That can be tough. It can be very tough because sometimes, and this is the case with a lot of deer that I've shot with a rifle, you have seconds to make that decision and kill that deer.
Yeah.
Because they're just not – I don't kill a lot of deer standing in a food plot. I've killed some that way. But a lot of my mature bucks have come from very thick cover. So I either have a lane that I'm anticipating him coming through, or all I can see is his neck up, and you have to make a split-second decision or you're not going to go home with that deer that day.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I look at, and this may sound ridiculous, a lot of people kind of overlook this. I look at the width of the forehead. If that's all I can see,
Yep.
if you've got a deer with a wide, blocky head and a stout, swelled-up neck,
Yep.
it is more than likely a mature deer.
And you can, another thing, you can look at, antler mass is not, a real good identifier, but it does generally get larger with age until it starts going back the other way. If you can catch that pedicle size where it's equal to the size of the orbital socket there around the white part, generally you can feel like he's on the way to mature.
That's right.
You're not going to say he's 5 or 6. You're going to say, well, that deer's probably 3 to 4, might be 4 to 5. But that's something that I look at too.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I guess identifying a deer via like trail cam photos versus in the field.
Yes.
That's a little harder. They're two different things. It's a little harder to do. But, yeah, I mean, depending on the time of year, if bucks are just running wild, you do have split seconds to figure out if I can do this or not.
And for us, talking about that, that's the one way to alleviate mistakes for us. We're shooting known deer.
Right.
If we see a deer out there, unless it's a no-brainer, most of the time we're coming back with a picture going, hey, does anybody know this deer?
Yeah.
Who is this? What is he? Where did he come from? Do we have any idea how old he is?
Yeah.
Before we pull the trigger.
I've let some mature deer, really nice deer, walk because I didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted for our management objectives, the last thing I want to do is shoot a deer that I shouldn't. Now, is it the end of the world? No.
Nah.
But I don't want to come back with a deer that I shouldn't have shot.
Well, I mean, I think, too, like, what we're talking about right now almost exclusively applies to, like, private leased land. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you're on public land, I mean, look.
If it meets the requirements.
Most people on public land shoot whatever's legal.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But, identifying a mature deer in a hunting scenario can be difficult. But, if you get to look at the entire deer, a mature deer is going to have large, broad shoulders. And in most cases, they're going to be – his front end is going to be wider than his rear end.
He gonna look like Pawpaw pushing his walker. He ain't gonna have no ass. He's gonna be all shoulders.
Yes, shoulders, neck, and belly.
And if you'll look at younger deer, a good way to rule out them being older is if you'll look at their chest and belly line, you'll see it, coming back, and as it gets to their flank, penis, sack, and all that, it starts to rise. Still, even at 3 and at 4, you'll see it just start to almost just kind of level out, and then at 5, it's no longer level. They generally, if the deer's in good condition, he's going to be.
Gravity has taken effect.
Yes, and he's going to have a fat pot belly, assuming he's got the food he needs.
Sure.
Right. Most of the time, a 5 to 6 year old buck doesn't look like anything else in the woods. And once you've seen a handful of them, it's just like, wow, that's what I'm looking for.
We tell people, even in the hunting experience, when you see a big deer, a mature deer, you don't grab binoculars. You don't grab anything else.
I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah, you know it, and you grab your bow or gun.
Yep.
I mean, you know it. Of course, people that's never seen a big one may not have it. They may not know it. Because I know plenty of people that would see a 2.5, 3.5 year old buck be like, "Whoa, that's the biggest thing I've ever seen." Pow.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and look, no shame.
Nope, not at all. That's what you want to do.
That's it.
Shoot that.
There's been, I mean, I know people say this a lot, and I would say the same things, but if I'm in the Midwest somewhere, a deer of any caliber, aside from some sure enough hammer, like, it doesn't destroy me. Like, you know what I mean? A deer steps out there and I go, okay. You know what I mean? Just keep my eyes on this animal and see what's going to happen next. Whereas in Alabama, a doe steps out there and your heart wants to beat out of your chest. You know what I mean? It's just not the same. Like, because I don't know if it's because the places that I hunt, at least,
they're so hard to kill.
Yes,
here.
and
there's not
like excluding Matt's paradise that he has, but
it's not all that he says it is.
It's pretty awesome.
We still struggle with poachers and trespassers.
Sure. But I'm saying surely from
neighbors.
forget age class. Let's just talk about the deer density. Just the actual
We got deer.
population of deer.
We got deer.
Where I hunt,
You saw his text
Yes.
this morning or yesterday morning, whenever it was.
Oh,
Yes.
all
those deer standing in the yard.
I know.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. I really
That's
wasn't.
that's what I mean. Like where I get to hunt, it's like there's just not many of them.
No.
And so if you have one in front of you, it's like, don't screw this up. You know what I mean? It's
Because those opportunities don't come along.
No,
very often.
they don't. And I think that's part of it. But yeah, you have your heart pound out of your chest over a doe in some situations, and others.
In most situations, with a bow in my hand, a doe gets me more worked up than a buck.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but
I can tell you what it is. They screw up more than anything else.
Does.
In the wood, yes.
Oh, absolutely.
They will blow your hunt.
Look,
you
let me
can't
tell you
even
something.
breathe.
The easiest deer, and there are probably listeners out there that are going to say this guy is absolutely full of crap when he says this. The easiest deer to kill in the woods is a mature buck in early season. They are oblivious to
they don't have a
anything
clue.
going on around them. They're clueless. They're confident.
Mm-hmm.
They do not care. What can screw it up? A doe.
Yep.
Yeah.
A doe will screw that hunt up long before he will
Yeah.
screw it up himself.
Running that neck out.
That's it.
Throwing her nose in the air. Throwing her nose in the air.
Doing a little stomp. Yep. They will mess you up in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. Can't educate them, though. She blows, she goes.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I don't like to educate does.
No doubt.
We discriminate against education for female deer.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. I mean, I think that's pretty good answers, though. Being able to identify them, just looking at trail camera photos and then also just in hunting scenarios in general.
And, hey, one thing we can do, I can send you some photos.
Yeah.
And just pop them up on the screen
No doubt.
during this episode and kind of show what a 5-6-year-old buck looks like.
For sure. We can do it. Let's see. Moving on to number 3 here. Says, hey, quick question. During the summer and early season, maybe through October, we have a decent amount of bucks, but I feel once the rut starts, I do not see them. Mm-hmm. We have good habitat and probably as many does, probably too many does, I'm sorry, but not sure what is going on.
There is a seasonal shift in home range for bucks.
A big one.
And they will prefer and seek out high-quality summer forage.
And then they'll move.
And they'll move. They'll shift. They'll completely shift. They can't all
No, they can't.
cohabitate
That's
together
right.
in the same place.
They will tolerate each other very, very well during velvet.
Yeah.
And so they're packing on the pounds. They're getting the needed resources they need. As soon as that velvet comes off, testosterone's up. Their demeanor changes.
Acorns begin to fall.
Yeah, they don't handle that intraspecific stress with each other very, very well. They want to separate.
We see the biggest shift in home range in late October to early November, which is 2 months before our rut.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here, for sure.
So, and it happens every year. We may have 20, 30 mature bucks on camera all summer long, and you're going to lose at least a quarter of them, sometimes a third of them, those last 2 weeks of October and first week of November. And they may or may not ever come back.
Yep. And some deer, look, we talk about deer being individuals. Some of them are homebodies.
Yep.
The place I used to manage in St. Clair County, it was a huge property. What we really focused on was a little over 7,000 contiguous acres, no roads, no highways, no nothing, just a big chunk of land. And then across the highway, there was another 6,000 or 7,000. And so there was 14,000, 15,000 acres in a block that we had our hands wrapped around very tightly. And we had one deer that we knew very well. We called him the heart-shaped buck. At his height, he was somewhere in the low 160s. When he was killed, he was 9, what we figure, and he was still in the upper 140s. But that deer never left 250 acres. Never left it. There was no shift. There was no nothing. you keep a camera out, and he was on it every day or every 2 days, and he wasn't venturing very far, and he was killed right there.
Yeah.
Another deer that we knew real well, a big deer, and you know where I'm talking about, when we were on the kudzu patch up there on that hill.
Yep.
Okay, so that deer lived there in springtime. He went all the way to the other paved road.
Miles away.
Yeah, it was 5.5 miles straight line distance. That's where he would go, and he would stay the rut, and he would live right over there on the whole other side of the property. And then when the rut was over, he would eventually make his way back.
Yep.
And he'd sit right back down there to the next spring.
And a lot of deer will do that.
Hey, you could track them. I mean, we knew them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's every deer is different.
They're individuals.
Some will go a long way, some won't. You're going to have a lot of folks promote shooting does that you can tell's got button bucks so that you can hold on to the button bucks. There is validity to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just tell people to be cautious with their doe harvest decisions. We talked about that last episode.
Myself, I orphaned 7 buck fawns in one field this year, and they're all still there.
And look,
every one of them.
And the deal is, very likely they will be.
Yeah.
Unless they bump heads and somebody is the man and pushes somebody else out.
They'll be buddies for a couple years.
Yeah.
And they'll figure things
out. So harvesting does and the right does, you can change how your place hunts.
Absolutely.
If you need to reduce your deer density, shoot your old foundation does that are really, really good at fawn rearing. If you don't need that and you need successful breeding,
shoot some of your young
yeah,
does.
shoot your young does.
And look, they're really not that much different to tell from bucks as far as an age standpoint. If 4 to 5 does walk out in the field, it's pretty easy to pick out who are the yearlings, the ones from the previous year.
Oh, yeah.
And shoot those 100-pound, 80 to 90-pound, 100-pound yearling does over the more successful breeders.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's still considered the South, but like when we were in South Texas, that first doe that I shot there, Matt Moore said she's likely 8 years old. I mean, I'm confident that she's 8 years old. And looking at the jaw, which again I know it's not totally reliable, but he was like, I mean, you could see a crater.
When you see jawbones like we were looking at in Texas, you just don't even have to worry about it anymore.
No.
They're just old.
She's old enough.
And when she showed up, well, I mean, there's other deer out there, but when she showed up, it was like, oh, that's Nana. You know what I mean? Like, she's
get out of her way.
White ears, white face.
Yeah, and so there was no mistaking that. Which again, I don't know how many people, generally speaking, are going to come across 8 and 9-year-old does on their property. Probably not often, but it's probably more like 3, 4, and 5-year-old does probably. But I mean, there was a noticeable difference in her and everybody else that was out there.
You mentioned I guess the age classes of the does, and I wish I could remember, and I could dig some of it up because I kept a lot of it. But my days with Cetera, we tracked all of our harvest across all acres, and it was kind of funny. They didn't shoot a bunch of young does, and they didn't shoot a bunch of old. It was kind of right in the middle. Was just always kind of where we averaged out, which I always found a little odd. I would have felt like with the deer density and where we were, on the ground, that it would have been younger than that. I would have thought they would have been fawns 1s and 2s.
Yeah.
But it was primarily 3s, 4s, 5s.
Well, and it's weird because on our place, we've killed a lot of does over the last few years. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of does. And they, for the most part, I'd say 75% of them fall in the 2 to 4 year old age class. You'll have a few over, and you'll have a few that are 1.5, but most are in that middle aged category.
And I think that's
which is really, it's an indicator of a healthy herd.
Yeah, it is. Which is why I said it surprised me a little bit
that
back then because it was industrial pine plantation. Things weren't managed very well. We tried, but I was responsible for 360,000 acres. And it's not like I could do a whole heck of a lot other than work with my clubs. But I just really expected to see it lower than that because I just didn't feel like the deer were quite as healthy as they were.
Yeah.
But their body weights generally averaged pretty good. Lactation was always suspect, but I just didn't think folks knew how to check it.
Yeah.
And I think that's still correct.
Yeah. I have a similar scenario with property where early season or even preseason you get bucks in velvet, and it's like, oh man, this year's going to be awesome. We've got on this teeny tiny little piece of property, we've got 6 bucks that are just showing out. Can't wait. And then mid-October rolls around and they're gone.
Well, and look, it's even more difficult for a small landowner. Say you've got a 40-acre tract, a 100-acre tract, and you've got 3 to 4 mature bucks in the summertime, and you think, oh my gosh, man, for such a small property, this is going to be such a great hunting season. Well, then guess what? They disappear.
All of them.
Every one of them. But here's the thing. They may not be as far as you think.
No.
Because if you've got a small acreage, they could have shifted their home range half of a mile.
Yeah.
And if you had a larger acreage, you'd still have the opportunity to hunt that deer and know where it was. But because you don't,
and
you think they're just gone.
And I think that's where a big part of the mentality of, I'm going to kill mine.
Right.
I think that's where it comes from.
Yes.
People really –
What?
Darn spider back over here.
I thought you got rid of you little spider.
Well, I did too. I tried to put it on you.
That's a different one. That's not the same spider.
No, we got infestation over here.
Well, that looks like just a common house spider.
You need to call your bug man.
For real.
He's all right. He don't eat much. Daggum, where was I?
We got sidetracked. I don't know.
Taylor, where was I?
Squirrel.
Talking
spider.
About small properties.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Properties.
The mentality of I'm gonna shoot mine. In reality, those deer are probably still there.
Right.
And people get excited of, oh man, I'm not going to see these deer. They shoot another buck that they wouldn't maybe,
and then
the other one shows up, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna shoot that one.
Yep.
And it's just it's a bleed over effect, so to speak, where I think folks get the opinion, well, I'm just not going to have anything, so I just better shoot the first thing that I see. And in reality, those deer are probably there and close by. Hunting it a little differently, might help. But the place I had up in Jackson County was the world's worst. Now, we killed some great deer up there. And
those deer are highly seasonal.
They are.
Golly.
And people are going to go, hey, full crap, he didn't have that mean deer. Well, you can argue with me all you want, but you're wrong. We had huge corn and soybean fields up there, and every year that we had it, and we had it for 13 years, I believe, we would have 30-plus bucks on that place. And I don't mean spikes, 4 points, and everything. I'm talking about 30-plus bucks that we were like, holy crap.
Good deer.
These are solid deer. And once the crops came out and the acorns started falling, we would hold on to 1 to 3 of those deer. The rest, gone. Never to be seen again. We might pick them back up the next spring or something down in those big ag fields. But once those crops were gone, the acorns hit the ground, shoot. Chances of you seeing those deer were slim and none. You better kill them before that happened.
Yeah. It is interesting though, because like those bucks will bachelor up, like they
oh,
will.
Yeah.
But I guess what's my question would be, kind of to follow up what this guy's talking about, how they'll tolerate each other, and like how many is too many? Like you'll see a bachelor group of 3 or 4 bucks together, but you won't see 7 or something. You know what I mean? Like
that's totally density dependent. A lot of times.
and resource dependent.
Yes,
I think.
I've seen groups of 8 to 10 bucks together on certain properties.
And what from what I've seen, and I'm curious to see if you have seen the same thing.
I'm just going to say whatever the opposite of what he.
Oh, that's fine. I think some of the bachelor groups are bigger than what people give credit for. They're just not laying up on top of each other all the time. I think there's 2 laying here, and then, a quarter mile away there's another 2 or 3, and then, same distance. They're just kind of scattered out. But when they come together in that resource for that food, they're all together in their group, and that's who they're with.
Yep.
But they don't just lay up with each other.
And that's
like
the thing.
Family groups of those.
A lot of times what you actually see, by the time you observe a bachelor group, it's actually 2, 3, 4 bachelor groups of 2 to 3 units coming together for one food source, and they just tend to all kind of trickle in about the same time. So you think, oh, that's one big group of deer together.
Yep.
Well, they may be spending all night together, but during the daytime, during the daytime, they're actually dividing up.
They're close, but they're just not right with
and
each
what
other.
I have seen too, a lot of times with your older age class bucks, they will be a part of several bachelor groups. They just kind of bounce around. And I guess you could call them solitary. I mean, they're really
a lot of times you'll find them even during the summer by themselves,
alone,
or maybe with another buck.
Yep.
Another
they'll,
old buck.
Yep, and they may be with a group today and tomorrow, but then for the next 3 weeks they may be with a different group, and then they may come back to this group, and then they may be solo for a few weeks. Deer behavior is really interesting.
It is,
especially that time of year.
Yeah, and there again, pressure plays a role in a lot of that. Where deer just don't feel pressure, man. It's neat. I made the comment to the guy riding around today on their place. It's just neat to go to a place and watch deer act like deer.
Yes.
I mean, we were on a big track, in North Alabama, and not hunted very hard, just riding around, and man, deer they stand there and look at you.
No doubt. Let's see. We'll move on down here to our next to last question. I had to learn. I learned what this word meant a minute ago because I hadn't heard it yet. But what is the best ecotone or screen to plant around fields to help wildlife feel safe?
At the risk of sounding like a turd, nothing. If you've got to buy it in a bag to plant the screen, then unfortunately probably not doing things just the way that need to be done.
I'm dying to answer. It's killing me.
For me, I had much rather disc and promote native vegetation that's supposed to be there is to go buy something in a bag and put it there. Now there are good native grass mixes and things that you can get. I have just found that most of the time it's not necessarily needed.
Hurry up.
I'm done. You say your piece.
I'm about to blow up.
Because he wants to say, we'll plant giant macranthus and switchgrass.
That's definitely not the answer. There are enough native grasses in the seed bank in just about
That's just what I said.
I know that. I'm just going to expound. Shut up.
Expound or expand or both?
Both, probably.
Okay.
Generally speaking, when I try to screen or provide an ecotone, I do the same thing he said.
I'm just glad he said dude used ecotone.
I know it. He's a smart fellow.
He's read a book.
Absolutely. Because you can do fall disking in areas that you want to have a screen, and you're going to get bushy blue stem, you're going to get native switchgrass, you're going to get broom sedge, you're going to get little blue stem, maybe big blue stem. All these are, but the biggest thing is also you're going to get forbs and legumes.
Yeah.
So you get the grassy structure to provide the screen, but you're double dipping because you're getting spring, summer, and fall forage. And browse plants. Yeah. So that is my answer. I'm not against planting switchgrass and all these other things.
No.
But
it's an added expense.
It's an added expense. And you can accomplish the same thing by not putting any seed in the ground. And you're going
to disturb it.
Yeah, you just want soil disturbance. That's really all you want.
One of the things I tell a lot of people is try it the first year and see what you come up with.
Yep.
If you don't get the species composition that you need, then we can supplement.
Yep, talk about seed at that point.
Yep, because there's a lot of places it's just going to be infested with dog fennel.
Yep.
And it's good vertical structure, but it's almost useless for most situations that we're in.
Also, you can mitigate that a little bit by the timing that you're doing your disturbance.
And herbicides.
Yes, herbicides and timing.
Yep. So there's a lot that goes into that, but I caution people just to start spending money right out the gate.
That's right.
Try native first. Disc, or just, heck, if it's not winter annuals that's there, or perennials for that matter, that don't need to be there. Sometimes just a bush hog will suffice. Sometimes it won't.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. If you're wanting to promote, I normally don't use a bush hog for much.
I don't much either.
I prefer fire and a disc. But if you're trying to promote grass as a cover screen, bush hog.
Bush hog.
Yep. You're just going to get more grass.
Yeah, I mean that one's pretty straightforward.
Well, that's good.
There's some great stuff to use. I would just throw a cautionary tale of try to stick with natives or something that's not necessarily. It don't have to be necessarily. Now I would prefer it, but something that's suited for the area. I know this giant Macantha stuff is very popular in places. I'm not going to recommend it to anybody.
I've never planted it. I'm not going to.
No. I've planted sawtooths, but I'm not crazy about planting sawtooths. They're generally a native that will fit the bill for what you're trying to do, and that's always best case scenario.
Yep. My go-to is natives.
Yeah.
So what about, I'm going to kind of take his question a little farther. What about putting those screen type stuff, or if you've got just like a plot or some kind of standing ag, do you cut the whole thing down, or do you leave strips?
No. Yes.
Okay. And that is because you want easier access to and from, or do you want them to feel safe when they're
both?
There's three things.
Several reasons.
Yeah. So I've got three main reasons. One, I want good ingress egress, so that I'm not seen.
Yep.
Two, I want them to feel safe where they are.
10, 4.
And three, I don't want, especially bucks, to be able to see the entire field as soon as their head enters it.
Preach.
I want them to have to cross as much of that territory as I can force them to cross, to give me the opportunity to see and identify that deer and make a good shot if I'm going to attempt to shoot that deer.
So there's a field that I've got on my place that I've got a native screen so that I can approach my shooting house and get in and out. And then I planted corn.
Oh, by native, he means privet.
Yeah. I planted a cornfield, and in the cornfield, I bush hog strips. So the bucks will come out of the bedding area across the creek. They'll walk through one of those strips and hit and look both ways every single time. And then they might feed, they might not, depends on what time of the year it is. But he'll go to the next cover strip of standing corn, walk through it, hit the next lane, look both ways. So if it's a deer that I have in my mind I'm going to shoot, guess what?
Opportunities.
I've got several opportunities before he exits that field to make my decision.
Right.
And some people they plant stuff, obviously, because that's what he was asking. In some other instances, when I've got heavy equipment around, I'm going to find me some logging debris, logging slash to create that stuff. I'm a cattle farmer. I'll go get bales of hay and create stuff.
Oh, heck yeah. I've pushed over trees.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've pushed them over.
Use what you've got.
Yeah, and piled them in front of my shooting house. And guess what? It just grows up in all kind of crap. All kind of forbs.
Then all you got to do is trim your holes
to
shoot through.
Just trim some limbs where you can shoot through and do it that way. And you've got a natural screen, natural cover from downed timber.
Yep. And let me tell you something. If you haven't hunted out of a blind that is made out of hay,
Do it.
yeah, try it. It's got to hide your scent somewhat
Right.
because I used to hunt in cattle pastures out of hay bales. I would put a tiny little electric fence around it to keep my cows from eating it, and I would stack up square bales of hay so that I was just shooting one direction. I've had deer within feet of me downwind. I know they're downwind. They just may have been stupid deer too. Who knows? Not care. But when we were trapping deer, we built all of our blinds out of square bales of hay with plywood tops. Now, we'd be as far from here to the camera from deer, looking out just little squares of hay, just looking at them, and they don't have a clue we're in the world.
That's crazy.
And they get so used to seeing hay bale, like
They
big
do.
round bales sitting out in the field. I kid you not, I have gone and sat in front of a hay bale in camo that does not match the hay bale in any way.
Oh yeah.
And deer, you're
walk
literally
right by
just a
you.
blob sitting there in a chair in front of a hay bale. Not a single deer pays any attention to you at all.
And let me tell you, they don't pay attention to a hay bale sitting in the middle of a pine stand.
Nope.
Because I've done it. I've gone and put bales of hay in unthinned pine plantation and hunted out of them. Mm-hmm. Works great.
That's funny. Yeah, I know. There's a company that's made a business model off
Hay
that.
bale blinds, yeah.
Hay bale blinds.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Doing things before it was cool.
That's right. Last one, we're really switching gears here.
Uh-oh.
Last one for the day. What do you think about the medicated feed for wild quail for eyeworm prevention? That's something that you would have any experience with, number one, I guess, and then two, would you recommend it or not?
That's out of my wheelhouse.
That is out of my wheelhouse too, but we can get an answer to that.
Okay.
That's not
We
any
know
problem.
quail people.
Yeah.
Good quail people.
We are quail habitat people.
Yes.
We are not quail bird people.
Right.
I can create quail habitat.
Yes.
I'm assuming it's probably got to be in the same family of parasites that you'll see in pheasants. They'll pull the lid back and you can see these squirming worms everywhere. I mean, that's yuck.
Yep.
Man.
I would and here this is just the science side of me coming out is when it comes to quail, I guess my question would be if it's financially worth it.
I think that's what he's getting at.
And quail are not long lived.
Right.
They are, as long as they've got moisture, they reproduce really, really well. I just don't know that it would be worth it because how short their lifespans
It would
are.
be the cost benefit analysis.
Yeah, I don't know that you're going to save them long enough to justify the added expense, but that's a great question and one that I don't know the answer to.
Nope, that's cool. But
we will find out.
That's right. We will get with our quail people and we'll figure it out.
And a great resource for quail information if folks are looking for it. Look up Tall Timbers Research Station out of North Florida, South Georgia. They do a tremendous amount of quail research. Matt and I both have done projects with them in the past, or I think you have. I know I have. We did a translocation project with them years ago on a track in St. Clair County. There is not a group anywhere that's going to have better information on quail.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Quail are awesome too, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, if we had them when I was they're my favorite game species, period. If I could have worked with them, around here, that would have been my career. We just didn't have them. So I settled for dang sorry old deer, pine, goat, and turkeys. But I I enjoy quail much more.
If quail populations keep doing what they're doing at our place,
we're going to have them.
We'll have a quail hunt.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
And look, on the quail side of things, it's not, we didn't have the answer to this particular question, but managing for quail is not rocket science. The key is, do you have quail? Mm-hmm. If you don't have a source population, then don't get yourself all worked up about managing for quail, because you're not going to get them. But if you have a source population and you will manage the habitat for quail, you will have quail.
100%.
You will have plenty of quail as long as you're managing for them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. If you don't, you're not going to have them.
Yeah.
They require active management.
Yep.
Deer can be semi-passive. They're not going to reach, our goals if you're passively managing deer, but they can survive. Turkeys, not so much. You got to be pretty active with turkeys, but certain habitat types lend itself to being passive for turkeys. Ours does not. The South does not. Hardwood bottoms, you don't have to do a whole lot with them, but pine plantation, you have to manage for birds.
Gotcha.
So if you want quail and you've got some,
you can have more.
Just build it. They will come.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, guys, that's all the questions. You got anything you need to add or anything that we left out that we should have added to it?
No, it's deadgum close to supper time.
It sure is.
That boy getting hungry.
He gets ornery when he gets hungry too, y'all. He even posted on Facebook. He got 31 minutes before he's a different person. And everybody else was like, 31 minutes, more like 31 seconds.
That's right.
Everybody who knows me knew that was an exaggeration on the time. You don't really have 31 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's being generous.
Yeah.
I promise you, he don't have 31 minutes. Like I responded, as soon as the thought, the impulse of the thought hits his brain, it's over.
By the time I make the decision to verbalize that I'm hungry, it's
probably
too late.
It's too late.
Yeah.
I was hungry before. I just didn't say anything.
As my boy Troy Ray says, too wait, mama, too wait.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And listen, we enjoy answering these questions, and we enjoy presenting them to people that are experts. And
I enjoy doing this more than just taking a topic and running.
Oh, I do too. I mean, it's a lot of fun because, there's also a little added benefit that this is something you guys are legitimately interested in. Sometimes we're having to sort of guess at that stuff, and
it can help us. It can help us understand,
Well, look, my favorite part so far is we got a question that we couldn't answer.
Yep, for sure. And we will get you an answer.
And
that tickles me to death.
I'm going to go find out. I'm probably going to find out before I go home.
Yeah, we'll get
I've already sent a text.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah, we will figure it out for you.
Yeah, if y'all ever see us texting while we're doing a podcast, we're not ignoring you or our responsibilities. We're probably digging. We're trying to find out what's going on.
We're trying to get the right answer.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyways, guys, we certainly appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe, follow us, all the things. It really helps us out. We are finally getting to a place where we might be able to monetize some of this stuff that we've been working hard for what seems like forever. It's really only about, year and a half.
Yeah, we don't want to monetize to get rich. We want to monetize just to pay the bills of production and what it costs to do this.
Yeah, there's a lot of travel involved, and especially if we go off-site for anything. Don't get me wrong. We had a blast in South Texas. That was awesome. It's also expensive. A lot of things have to happen in order for 3 people to make that trek there and back and all that kind of stuff. So we want to be able to do that, and we want to be able to do more things like it and future projects. We've got some pretty big ideas, and again, if you guys will hang with us, we've got something big coming, and we'll let you in on that.
Just to reiterate, look, any of these questions and activities we're talking about, we do these things for a living as a service for other people.
Yeah.
So if these are services you need, reach out to us. It may not be us. We may not be the right fit. We may not be in your area, but we have a really, really good network of folks that we work with that we can get folks lined up with.
Yep, no doubt. So if you need something, let us know. Please keep sending your questions and any kind of comments. Engaging with us on social, we really appreciate it. And we will see you on the next one.
Peace out.